What's up everybody and welcome back to the channel. Now, I get a lot of questions in the comment sections of my videos, which I try to answer there, and a lot of these questions are sometimes, repeated by many different people and also across many different videos. And because you guys are so awesome and because there are so many comments, I often think that these get lost, and so not everybody has the want nor the need to sit and go through 400, 500, 600 comments to hopefully find the answer to a question that they might have. And so I thought maybe it would be fun if we actually take some of these questions straight from the videos, and I just address them in a video on its own, just answering some of it. Who knows, maybe this will become something that's popular and we can do a couple of these in the future. Let's see how this one goes, and then we take it from there. So let's kick it off. Let's start with the first one. So we have Big Bam 23 that basically asks, so are you saying the only way to get my wearable item level cap to 50 is by reaching a certain CT, certain challenge tier? So I think the best thing would be if we just look at two little tables that I made here so that you can sort of follow as I explain it. I do think that the game probably could do a little bit of a better job to explain this. It is a little bit confusing, to be honest, but essentially what you have to think of is that firstly, world tiers and challenge tiers exist separately from each other. And when you're out in the open world, when you're doing monster hunts, when you're doing missions, all of that stuff, when you're doing everything except expeditions, it's governed by where you are in terms of the world tier. So as you can see on the table right there are 15 tiers of world tier, and this determines the level of the creatures that you fight depending on which world tier you're currently on. It also determines the level of the gear that drops, and lastly, of course, it determines what a level you can equip up to. So as my example at the bottom there, if you've gone all the way up to world tier 15 and you have leveled to the max level of your character, which is character level 30, then you'll be able to equip gear up to the maximum level of 42. And if you walk around at world tier 15 killing stuff, the game will drop level 42 gear for you. Now, the maximum level, however, is much higher, and that is what challenge tiers are about. So once you feel that you are equipped enough to start pushing these last couple of levels to get you to the maximum level, then if we look on the challenge tier side, this is the system that runs whenever you enter an expedition. So when you go into a challenge tier 1 expedition, the enemies will be level 31 and they will drop level 31 gear. And you can equip up to level 31. But now, because you were already a higher world tier level, possibly you will not be punished and your gear won't be dropped, or you won't be able to not equip that gear. But what the game will do is it'll actually scale you down to be within a couple of levels of level 31, for instance. And this is the level scaling and all of this that you often hear people talking about. The point is, once you get to basically challenge tier 9, then you'll actually start unlocking the ability to equip higher gear, because higher gear will also drop from challenge tier 9 onwards. As you can see in the table there, challenge tier 9 will drop 43, 10 will drop 44, then 11 is a big jump to 46, and so on and so forth, until you're able to actually complete a challenge tier 15, which will unlock the ability for you to upgrade your gear to level 50, but also to just equip level 50. And if you complete challenge tier 15s, of course, level 50 gear drops. So hopefully that explains the difference between the two here. There is a slight overlap between the two, but it's important to bear in mind that they essentially exist separate from each other. And when you're out in the world, then you're governed by the world tier system, and when you're in expeditions, you're governed by the challenge tier system. But whichever level you've unlocked to the highest overall determines what you can walk around in terms of armor. I hope that answered the question, and I hope I made it a little bit more simple than what the game does, which is basically just give you like 3 pictures with some text underneath. So yeah. Okay, so next question. Connor Napier says, or asks rather, this is probably simple knowledge, but I'm new to the game. Are legendaries specific to which drop from each expedition? The short answer to this is no. They are not specific at all. It is one of the things that I've mentioned in the past that would be cool if you were able to target farm certain areas. Like, let's say for instance you were looking for a death shield, then there would be a way to know, okay, cool, if I do you know, Mountain Outpost and Coliseum, it has a higher chance of dropping Death Shield. That, I'm pretty sure, is not the case. And simply the fact that, I mean, I've done by now testing on all of the expeditions, you know, and testing which armor drops, testing what weapons dropped, repeating them over and over. Once I see a specific weapon drop somewhere, I go back and I try to farm it again. And I've not been able to find any evidence that actually shows that you are able to target farm certain legendaries from certain expeditions. Furthermore, there's also not certain expeditions which give you more legendaries than other. Unfortunately, there are channels, there are people out there, there is, I don't know if you want to call it fake news or whatever, but there are unfortunately reports out there that claim, you know, the opposite of this, and say, you know, do you know, Coliseum if you want this, do that if you want that. But that is something that I've not been able to replicate or prove at all. So if you ask me, I say no. Okay, next one, we've got 11 Garden Class 11. By the way, in this entire video, if I completely and utterly destroy your name, I apologize in advance. You know, I'll make it up to you down the road, I promise. But bear with me. So 11 Garden Class 11 asks, if you make an epic, the epic, first, is the percentage the same? I would say they roll a higher percentage. Now, this kind of slots into basically if you have a blue weapon or a blue piece of gear, and whether you should immediately move it over to a epic, for instance, or whether you should first level to 50, which is something that I've suggested in my guides in the past, because just the material cost is much more affordable, and then swap over. And which one is really preferential? Which one do you get the higher multiplier when, you know, when it applies the additional armor or firepower that you would get when you do the upgrade? Again, this is something that I've tested extensively in building those tables and building the file, which I of course linked, which allows you to calculate weapon damage at whichever level you want, as well as armor at whichever level you want. And the multiplier is on an average per level, it's between 1.1 and 1.2 depending on which level it is, and this slides up and down again, like I said, depending on where you are in the scale of 1 to 50. There is no increase in terms of whether you upgrade something at level 10 or to a purple, or whether you upgrade at level 30 to a purple, or whether you upgrade at level 50. It's the same. It's the same multiplier all the time, and I was able to test this over and over again by, of course, using that file. And while I was building it, just trying all kinds of, I tried armor at low levels, weapons at low levels, different weapons at low levels, different variants of those weapons at low levels. And the result was all the same, and that's why I was able to actually create that table. If there was a way that you could influence this multiplier by doing it at different levels, or at different rarities, or at different variants, or something like that, then that would of course make just creating a table that can on the spot analyze this and give you a total value a lot more complicated, which it wasn't in the end. So yeah, unfortunately, again, in my findings, I have not found that to be the case. It does not actually roll higher depending on when you do it. Next question. Oh, this is kind of the same. So Inca Stud asked, do you know if upgrading to purple randomizes the firepower? So okay, it's kind of the same. So I think this might also be connected to the whole DLC weapon, which was where you took an automatic rifle and then you re-rolled it to a tactical variant, and that would actually re-roll the firepower, and so you were trying to sort of trick that into getting that. The DLC weapons is really the only time that I've seen that this essentially happens. So because otherwise what you could do is you could take a weapon and you could just switch between the variants all the time until it gave you a favorable damage roll. But in actual fact, if you take a weapon and you switch between the variants, you'll see that once you change to another variant and you change back, it changes to exactly the same damage. So there isn't actually this kind of like game that you can play where you can try and trick it into giving you like a higher variable. So unfortunately not. Next one, David Volano Loro. Again, sorry about the names. Have they patched the Hal Rangers Auto Rifle glitch? So this, yes, refers to the DLC glitch, which I was just referring to now. This glitch has been fixed in two ways, actually. I tried to just test this, so I used the same character that I used in the previous videos, that when I rolled all of those different DLC weapons. And not only was I not able to pull out multiple copies, so the whole trick with going into an expedition, then backing out after you're dead, and then, you know, getting another one back, I couldn't get another rifle to respawn back in my inbox. And secondly, once I did change the variant of that rifle from just the normal automatic to the tactical, it kept the same damage value. So this does seem to be something that they've addressed in the patch, which I suppose it would have been the patch that came out on Friday. It has, however, not affected the weapons which I already had rolled at high level damages and which I already had swapped to tactical. So luckily I did a bunch of these, and I have about 8 or 9 of them. I don't think I'll ever need that many, but those ones are unaffected, at least so far. Although I have heard, again, rumors, not something that I've tested, because technically speaking, I don't want to potentially sacrifice those weapons of mine. But I have heard that if you move it from your character into your stash, it then changes its rarity and basically becomes useless. So I'm not gonna test that just as of yet, but that is something to watch out for and just be careful of. Okay, if we go to the next one. Ronnie Woods asked, does this fine sire stream on YouTube and Twitch? I have to say I laughed so much the first time when I got this comment. It just really made me chuckle. But so I have tried a little bit of streaming on YouTube. I also many years ago did a little bit of streaming on Twitch, but currently at the moment right now I am not. I'm basically just creating this content and putting it onto YouTube. However, streaming, more specifically streaming on YouTube gaming, is something that I'm looking to pivot into in the very near future. So watch this space. It is definitely something that's coming to the channel for sure. Okay, next one. Daddy and CJ asks, what's God tier for armor? Okay, so I apologize that I did create those tables for rare and for legendary armor. And I mentioned, you know, what I would consider a God roll, or, you know, what would be usable and what would be, you know, basically trash and all of that. I didn't do something similar for the armor. And the reason for that being that armor is a lot more open-ended if it comes to that, because in terms of armor, the roll on the actual armor stat takes second preference to what the substats are. So if you are looking for a piece of armor, let's say for instance you're playing Technomancer, and so what you're looking for is you're looking for additional firepower, you're looking for long range damage, and you're looking for close range damage. Those are the 3 substats that you want on an armor. Then if you have to take a piece of armor that rolls at its maximum at level 50, rolls only 10,000 and not close to the maximum, which is about 11.3, 11.4 thousand, it's still better for you to take that piece of gear, that 10,000 piece of gear that has the preferential 3 substats that you want, instead of another piece of gear that rolls 11.4 or 11.2 or 11.1 or, you know, 10.9 or whatever, but doesn't actually have the stat distribution that you want. So that's kind of like why I left it open, because I think it's a lot more build dependent. So it's really difficult to say to someone, yeah, this is God roll or something like that, because you shouldn't just be looking at the armor value. But if we're just looking at the armor value and you have 2 pieces with exactly the same substats and you're just looking at the armor and you want to compare, then obviously as close to 11.3 as you can come is God tier. And in actual fact, 10.9, 11, all that's all God tier. That extra 300 or, you know, is not going to make that big a difference. So anything that you can get as close to 11k would definitely be considered God tier. But again, the substats are really where it's most important here. Then we have another one from Don't Worry About It. So this question is, so physical damage reduction is bullets and melee, and resistance is power, so anomaly, and status effects is shields, both physical and resistance? This is a really good question. And this is off the back of the video which I released yesterday, which was talking about damage mitigation, which is kind of like a hot topic right now after the patch from Friday. So it's not an easy one to answer, but I'll do my best to explain. And that is that you should see shield, and what we're referring to is of course the blue bar that appears above your health bar. Trickster, this is quite important for them, because when they go up close and kill things, then they get the shield ability, and intrinsically Tricksters get a damage reduction boost as long as they have shield. But shield just on its own to all of the characters as just a basic is essentially just another health bar. And so it essentially reduces not reduces damage, but just becomes an additional layer of soak that you can do for damage. But there is one big difference here, and that is that you will have noticed that in the past you could have died while actually having shield on your character. That's because any kind of dot ability, so if you have toxic on you, fire on you, bleed on you, this is a big one, they bypass shield and still hit your health bar. So you could have a full stack of shield, and if you have a dot that's ticking off on you and you have extremely low life for some reason, and only the shield above that life, then the dot can actually kill you, because dots don't tick off the shield at all. So that's the big difference between the health bar and the shield. But at least as far as my testing is concerned, the only thing that really differentiates the shield and the health bar from each other is this. Essentially, other than that, the shield is just an additional layer of, more health, basically. I think I've got one more, and this is actually one that I get a lot. This is more a joke than anything else, but it's JD Spader Ibbison asked, are you South African by any chance? I also get other people that ask, my accent, and am I South African? Am I Afrikaans and all that? And the answer is yes, I am, and I actually come from a small little country above South Africa called Namibia. But I spent many years in South Africa, so if any of you picked that up, well spotted, congratulations. But yes, that is the side of the world that I'm from, yeah, that's basically it. Now, for the last part of the video, I actually just wanted to personally address each and every one of you and thank you for the support and the growth that you've brought to this channel. The last 2 weeks have been phenomenal. And essentially all of the growth of this channel comes from the last 2 weeks, and specifically the Outriders community and just, all of that around that. The support, like I said, has been phenomenal. And again, I will repeat something that I said before, and that is that it's actually easy for me to make content for this community, because it is super satisfying to be able to share something that I enjoy, but actually also see other people be able to take that information and make it useful for themselves. So thanks again, and really I see it as an absolute pleasure and a blessing to be here with you all, and thank you so much for all of that. I also want to specifically thank the people that have used the donation link in my video descriptions. Your name's on the screen right now, but Dusty Barrett, Lawrence Semenyuk, Matthew Franklin, David Baxter, Tobias Masher. I cannot thank you guys enough. Your donations, mean a lot to me. But let me be clear that, of course, I'll never say no to donations, but I'll also never require that from any of you. We've all in the past, year or whatever, been through an extremely rough and tough time, and I think in many cases some of us are still going through that. So take care of yourself and your loved ones first and foremost before you ever worry about me. But I really, really appreciate each and every one of you, and I can't thank you enough. It's been a hell of a ride, and it's going to continue on. This sounds like a weird goodbye or something, but yeah, I just really wanted to take the time to say thanks, and let's continue on going. I've got so much more I want to say and show and everything like that, and of course we'll move past Outriders and everything like that, because it can't all just be about one game. But thanks everybody for coming along on this ride, and welcome to the channel. It's great to have you, and that's about it. So I want you to have a great morning, a great afternoon, and a great evening wherever you are. And until next video, fucking cheers.